In the depths of silence where shadows dwell, the soul whispers tales it cannot tell. Addiction is no mere flaw or sin, but the echo of battles fought within. Carl Jung, in Wisdom Profound, declared, "Man's longing is spiritual, though impaired. In vice, he seeks what the heavens withhold, a counterfeit of the sacred and bold. The addict's path, though paved in night, is a cry for meaning, for inner light, a mirror to the abyss." As Friedrich Nietzsche warned, when you gaze long into the abyss gazes also into you. Addiction is the abyss staring back, a reflection of humanity's endless hunger for connection, for transcendence, for the divine. History bears witness to this unyielding quest. The opium dens of imperial China, where trade became tyranny and smoke blurred the boundaries of freedom. Or consider the gin-soaked alleyways of Victorian England, where the gin craze consumed the poor. A symptom of despair in an industrial age that crushed the soul beneath its gears. Yet, in every era, the pattern repeats. The substance is a mask, the hunger, eternal. Through shadowed streets, the seeker walks. In silence, the soul still softly talks, not to destroy, but to rebuild, to find the sacred void fulfilled. Jung's concept of the shadow resonates here. The addict's shadow is not merely a defect, but a disowned part of the self, yearning for integration. Sigmund Freud, too, observed, "The suppressed returns as the symptom, and addiction is this return." A painful, misunderstood plea for unity and healing. Nietzsche saw this struggle as existential. The will to power is the will to become. Addiction, then, is not the end, but a distorted beginning. From ancient shamans invoking spirits, to heal fractured minds, to modern therapists blending science and soul, the journey of recovery is a timeless one. In pain, the alchemist toils and strives, transmuting suffering into brighter lives. The base to gold, despair to grace, a truth discovered in the shadow's embrace. The soul's call addiction, far from being a mere failure of will, is the soul's call to wholeness. It demands not repression, but understanding, a reconciliation of the self with itself. Consider the phoenix, rising from its own ashes. Like the addict, it too must first fall to be reborn in radiant fire. The addict's path is not one of weakness, but of transformation. It asks of us to confront our deepest fears, to integrate our shadow, and to find light in the very heart of darkness. Seek not the fleeting nor the false, but hear the voice within that calls. Through shadow's depth, the truth takes flight, from brokenness to boundless light. The eternal journey, from fragmentation to wholeness. Addiction, as Jung might have framed it, is the exile's journey back to the self. It is not merely a state to be eradicated, but a path to be understood. As the ancient Sufis believed, the soul longs to return to its source. Each craving, each destructive act, is a misdirected prayer for unity. The labyrinth of the self in Greek mythology, the hero Theseus faced the Minotaur within the labyrinth. This myth mirrors the addict's plight. To confront the beast within, one must venture into the maze of the psyche, guided only by the thin thread of hope. The addict, like Theseus, must wrestle with the shadowed parts of themselves. And like the labyrinth, the journey is not linear. It twists, turns, and tests one's resolve. In darkness deep, the seeker strives to find the light where truth survives. Each fall, a lesson, each scar, a guide toward the self where peace resides. The role of community: no journey is made in isolation. In every culture, healing has its roots in connection. From the tribal gatherings of ancient Africa, where storytelling became medicine, to the 12-step programs of today, the collective voice is a source of strength. Emile Durkheim, the sociologist, saw addiction as a symptom of anomie, a breakdown of social bonds. To heal, one must rebuild these ties. Community becomes both the mirror and the balm, reflecting the self while soothing its wounds. Through hands extended, strength is shared. Through hearts united, wounds repaired. No soul can heal in solitude. In love, the broken is renewed. From shadow to light. In Jungian psychology, the integration of the shadow is the path to individuation. But what does this mean in practice? It means facing the pain, the trauma, the unmet desires that fuel the cycle of addiction. It means transforming the false promises of substances into the real fulfillment of inner peace. As the Taoists teach, the way out is through. One must embrace the chaos to discover the harmony hidden within. The storm subsides, the skies grow clear, the soul rediscovers what it holds dear. From the ashes of longing, the phoenix soars to realms where love and meaning restore. A legacy of transformation. The stories of those who have emerged from the grip of addiction are not tales of defeat, but of triumph. They remind us that suffering can be alchemized into wisdom and pain into purpose. The addict, then, becomes not a victim, but a teacher, a bearer of truths that only the darkest nights can reveal. This journey, though fraught with difficulty, is one of the most profound expressions of human resilience. The alchemy of suffering. Addiction as transformation. Addiction, at its core, reflects the human capacity to endure. It is not the end, but a process, an attempt by the psyche to reconcile with what it has lost. Jung described addiction as a search for wholeness, an effort to fill the void left by unmet spiritual or emotional needs. But can suffering itself become a source of healing? The ancient art of alchemy offers a compelling metaphor: base metals transformed into gold, chaos distilled into clarity. Addiction, then, is the nigredo, the dark night of the soul, the phase of dissolution and despair that precedes rebirth. In this darkness, something essential is happening. The ego, once rigid, begins to dissolve. The false self, built on denial, fear, and illusion, breaks apart, revealing the seeds of a truer self beneath. In shadow's grip, the alchemist toils. Through pain and loss, the spirit boils. What seems destruction is, in truth, the birth of wisdom, the soul's own youth. Addiction as a mythic journey. Joseph Campbell's concept of the hero's journey provides a lens to view addiction as an archetypal experience. The addict is cast into the abyss, facing dragons of their own creation: shame, guilt, loneliness, and despair. Yet this descent, like Dante's journey through hell, is not the end. From the depths, the hero rises, transformed, empowered, and renewed. But how does this transformation occur? The first step is acknowledgement. To name a thing, wrote Jung, is to gain power over it. Naming addiction as both a struggle and a symptom opens the door to understanding. Next comes the act of surrender, not as defeat, but as an embrace of the truth. The ego relinquishes its illusions, making space for growth, healing, and connection. From broken paths and bitter tears, the soul ascends, dispelling fears. In truth's embrace, the self is found, where hope and love eternally abound. Cultural context of healing. Across cultures, addiction is often framed as a rupture, a break in the individual's connection to the self, to others, and to the larger world. In indigenous traditions, healing rituals address this disconnection holistically. The use of sacred plants, such as ayahuasca in the Amazon or peyote in North America, facilitates a return to balance. These ceremonies are not about escape, but about confronting and integrating the shadow. Modern science is beginning to echo these insights. Studies on psychedelic-assisted therapy for substances like psilocybin and MDMA demonstrate their ability to dissolve the ego's defenses, allowing individuals to access buried trauma and heal. These practices remind us that healing is not linear. It is cyclical, a dance between destruction and renewal. Through ancient rites and sacred flame, the soul emerges, whole again. In every culture, every time, the search for healing is sublime. Addiction as a mirror of society. Addiction does not exist in isolation. It reflects the fractures in our collective soul. The Industrial Revolution, with its relentless pace and dehumanizing systems, gave rise to modern forms of addiction. Alcoholism in urban slums, opium in colonial wars, and, in the digital age, addiction to screens and instant gratification. Each era creates its own poisons, yet these poisons reveal deeper truths. As Emile Durkheim observed, society itself can become a source of collective anomie, where individuals lose their sense of purpose and place. Healing, then, requires not only individual effort, but systemic change, a reconnection to values that prioritize community, authenticity, and meaning. As we journey beyond the shadow of addiction, we find that the path is not linear. Healing does not occur in straight lines, but in circles, spirals, where one returns to lessons learned, but at a deeper level. As Carl Jung so wisely stated, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. It is the constant unraveling of who we are and who we have yet to become. We cannot force growth, just as we cannot force healing. It comes when we surrender to the process. Breaking the chains of false security, the illusion of control. Addiction often emerges as a response to an overwhelming need for control. We try to control pain, emotions, reality itself. But the paradox is this: the more we seek control, the more we lose it. The battle with addiction is a battle for control over something we cannot control: our feelings, our past, our desires. Friedrich Nietzsche, in his exploration of will and power, suggested that he who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster. In seeking control over our lives, we risk becoming controlled by the very forces we try to master. What if the key to healing is letting go of control, releasing the need to always fix things, to manage every outcome, and instead, allowing life to flow through us? This is the essence of spiritual and psychological healing. It's not about conquering ourselves, but about surrendering to the natural flow of existence. The paradox of surrender, finding freedom in letting go. Surrendering does not mean weakness. On the contrary, it requires profound strength. Strength to admit that we don't have all the answers. Strength to ask for help. Strength to admit that we need others. Carl Jung, in his work on individuation, reminded us that true growth occurs not in our perfection, but in our acceptance of imperfection. Surrendering to the moment means being present with what is, without trying to shape it into something it is not. It is the ability to face the rawness of life, the pain, the chaos, the uncertainty, and accept it as it is. This acceptance doesn't mean resignation, it means resilience, a willingness to let go of control, but not of purpose. The role of compassion toward ourselves and others. As we walk the path of recovery, we must remember that healing is not only about our relationship with ourselves, but with others. Addiction isolates us, cuts us off from true connection, and yet, to love and be loved is the greatest of all human desires, as Carl Jung also emphasized. The journey back to wholeness involves reestablishing connections with others, with ourselves, and with the world around us. Compassion becomes the bridge, not just compassion for others, but for ourselves. As we heal, we learn to forgive ourselves for our perceived failures. This forgiveness allows us to break the cycle of guilt and shame that often underpins addiction. Healing happens when we understand that we, too, are deserving of love and kindness. When we forgive our past mistakes and see them as lessons, not stains on our character. Finding meaning in the chaos, the power of purpose. Addiction often rises from a sense of meaninglessness, a vacuum where purpose is missing. Nietzsche spoke of the will to power, our drive to create meaning and assert our existence in a chaotic world. But what happens when we have no meaning to assert? What happens when we lose our purpose? The process of healing requires us to reconnect with our why, our deeper purpose. This doesn't always come quickly or clearly, but it emerges over time as we find new sources of meaning in our lives. How do we rediscover purpose? Through small everyday acts. Finding meaning doesn't always require grand gestures. Sometimes, the most profound purpose can be found in the simple act of taking care of oneself, of helping others, of offering kindness when it's most difficult. Through creative expression, art, music, writing, all of these offer pathways to reconnect with our innermost self and express the emotions and experiences that words cannot fully encompass. In the creation of something beautiful or meaningful, we begin to heal. Purpose is not something we find as much as it is something we create. Through every step we take, every decision to move forward, no matter how small. The unfolding, transformation through time. Lastly, healing is not a momentary change. It is a lifelong process, an unfolding. Just as a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, we too emerge through the process of metamorphosis. As we move through life, we will encounter new challenges and sometimes new shadows. But each encounter adds layers to our understanding, our growth, and our compassion. We are constantly becoming. It is not about reaching a final destination, but about continually deepening our relationship with ourselves. It's about moving toward greater authenticity, greater freedom, and greater love. The process is not always smooth, and it certainly is not linear. But as we continue to integrate our experiences, our strengths, and our vulnerabilities, we find a new sense of self, more whole, more resilient, more alive. A final reflection, the circle of life and healing. As we journey through life, we may feel broken, but we are never beyond repair. We are like clay, shaped and reshaped by our experiences. The cracks in our being do not signify weakness. They are places where light enters, where we find our true strength. Healing is not the absence of pain or the end of suffering. It is the integration of all that we are, the light and the dark, the joy and the sorrow. It is learning to live fully, in the present, with all the complexity that life offers. And in that process, we find the beauty of our own being. The path of transformation, a dance with the shadow. In the depths of the soul, where shadows lie, addiction calls, and hearts ask why. But as Jung said, the wound is where the light will enter. It is through our pain that we become the center. For healing is not the absence of sorrow, but the strength to face it, to rise tomorrow. Out of the depths, Jung spoke with grace, the psyche will find its sacred space. The alchemy of pain, turning darkness into gold. Addiction is but a darkened mirror, reflecting back what we fear and fear. But pain, as Nietzsche once declared, is the crucible where strength is shared. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how, said Nietzsche, and in this truth we bow. For pain transforms, through fire we are made, the soul refines in the darkest shade. Through suffering's forge, the self is born, not broken, but reborn, not forlorn. From chaos and ashes, the soul will rise, embracing its truth beneath the skies. The shadow's embrace, reconciliation of the self. Jung spoke of the shadow, the part we deny, the hidden depths beneath the conscious eye. In addiction, the shadow grows loud, a silent voice in the crowd. The shadow is not an enemy, Jung once said. It is the truth we've left unsaid. To heal, we must embrace the dark, for it holds the key to the soul's spark. The strength in surrender, letting go to find power to surrender, is not to yield, but to open the heart and let it heal. As Jung said, only that which is unconscious can rule us. It's in surrender that we regain our trust. Addiction thrives in the need to control, but true power lies in letting go. In the paradox of yielding, we find our strength. In surrender, we regain our length. Surrender is the path where healing begins, letting go of fears, of old sins. Not weakness, but a strength untold. In letting go, we find our goal. The mirror of others, healing through connection. Healing comes not in solitude alone, but in connection, where hearts have grown. Jung said, "What you resist persists, and in resistance we lose the gist." Addiction isolates, it builds a wall, but in the circle we rise and call. The mirror of others reflects our pain. Through empathy, we break the chain. In the eyes of another, we see our own face, a reflection of love, a shared embrace. Healing is not a journey one can make, but a path we walk for each other's sake. The purpose beyond the pain, rediscovering meaning. What does it mean when the soul feels lost, when all seems empty and we count the cost? Nietzsche said, "Man is something that shall be overcome." But we can't overcome without becoming one. The search for meaning is what we seek. In the void, it's purpose that makes us speak. Jung taught us, we are what we make of ourselves. Through the pain, we discover ourselves. Purpose is not given, it must be earned. In the fire of suffering, we are turned. The meaning we seek is ours to find. It's born from within, in the heart and mind. The dance of the self, integration and wholeness. Healing is not about fixing the broken, but embracing what is and all that is unspoken. Jung taught that individuation's the key. It's the journey to become all we're meant to be. Addiction, then, is not the end we see, but a passage through which we're set free. For in the depths where we've lost our way, we find the truth that leads today. The journey is long, but the end is clear. In the heart of the storm, we persevere. Through darkness and light, we find our grace. And in the soul's embrace, we find our place. The circle of life, transcendence and rebirth. In the endless cycles of death and rebirth, we find our place, our ultimate worth. Jung said, "The bird fights its way out of the egg. The egg is the world. Who would be born must destroy a world." Addiction is the egg we must transcend, for in breaking free, we find the end. It is not the end of suffering, but the beginning of growth. The soul must break, to heal, to know. Each fall, each rise, a step in the dance, a journey that calls us to take the chance. We are the phoenix, rising from flame. Through the ashes, we are never the same. The circle of life, the soul's true quest, in overcoming, we find our rest. The ultimate truth, embracing the whole self. In the end, we are whole, we are one, not perfect, but human under the sun. Addiction is not a mark of defeat, but the challenge where soul and spirit meet. Jung's final words echo deep and true. Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. So embrace the dark, the light, the pain. In these, we find our true domain. In embracing all, we heal the soul, not broken, but complete and whole. For the self is not divided, but whole and free. In unity with life, we find our key. In the end, healing is not a destination, but a journey that calls for deep dedication. We are not defined by our failures or past, but by the strength we find to make each day last. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." In this truth, we find the light that's never far. Through every step, every fall, every rise, we're moving closer to the truth, to the skies. The path forward is not without its doubt, but in each question, we learn what it's about. There's no perfection, no final mark, just a constant evolution, a spark. The invitation, a dialogue of souls. So now, as you stand at the edge of this truth, ask yourself, what does it mean for you in your youth, in your wisdom, in your scars, in your pain? What lessons have you learned in your own strain? For we're not alone in this collective fight. Each of us carries the same plight. In our stories, we find the way to heal, to connect, to share, to feel. I invite you now, dear listener, to speak. In the comments below, let your voice peak. What has this journey meant to you? What thoughts, what questions are born anew? Let's share this space and build it strong, where we all can grow, where we all belong. Your voice matters, your story's light. Together, we'll rise through the longest night. The circle of healing, our shared light. Healing is not a solitary endeavor, but a path we walk, now and forever. As we share, we grow. As we listen, we learn. The healing flame begins to burn. So let us journey together, side by side. Let go of shame, let go of pride. For we are all in this, intertwined, and in our shared wisdom, we will find peace of mind. A closing thought, a new beginning. As you reflect on the words we've shared, remember, your story, your journey, is rare. The road may be long, and the night may be cold, but within you lies strength untold. You are more than your struggles, more than your pain. You are the storm, the sun, the rain, So walk with courage, walk with grace, for your journey has only begun in this sacred space. Leave a comment, join the discussion, and let us all learn together. Your thoughts, your insights, could be the key that helps someone else set their spirit free.